All right, welcome back to the Fit Fatherhood Podcast, a podcast for fathers by fathers, where we talk about the four pillars of fatherhood, which are faith, family, finance, and fitness. And I'm excited for this episode. It's a long time coming. We've been kind of working on trying to put this together for a while, and finally got the time to do it. My man has a super busy schedule, so I'm glad that he was able to take some time out to share with us. Dr. Robert, thank you for joining us, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, thank you for having me. I really like and appreciate all that you're doing for fatherhood, especially I think us as black fathers, we need to see each other in action because our kids really need us. And I think that what you're doing is inspiring a lot of young men to step up and be present fathers and be better fathers. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, man. I'm hoping to inspire change for the next generation. And I say this all the time, somewhat selfishly, because I got kids that are going to grow up. And if I can inspire other fathers to do a great job in their kids' lives, then my children will live in a world with better people. So I guess we kind of get started. I mean, you can kind of give us a little intro, a little bio, like who you are, what you got going on.
Okay, yeah. I'm an anesthesiology physician. My family and I live in the Chicago area. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. My son just turned 5 this weekend. Um, and what I share on my social media is just kind of how I find a balance between my job and my family and how I try to prioritize family time because to me it's so important that I think our fathers and previous generations, the goal was to kind of just be the financial support to make sure that we are building a future for our kids, providing for them financially. But I think that the dads of today, it's important for us to be more hands-on, to spend more quality time, to make sure that we are giving our kids affirmation, thinking about their not just their financial needs, but also their emotional needs as they grow up in childhood and develop into adults. And so that is really my main focus, showing myself as a father, as a physician, and how I put everything together to make it all work.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I hear the most is, that guys struggle with is that kind of that balance, right? How do you balance your career and your relationship with your family? How do you spend time doing both, like trying to climb the corporate ladder or trying to build a business or just trying to work in whatever field you work in, but then also come home and build that family up and pour into your children, pour into your significant other. Um, how are you managing to do that? Because as I've seen, your schedule is pretty crazy. How are you managing to do that?
Yeah, man. So like even last night, I did a 24-hour shift last night. Um, my schedule is pretty unpredictable. Some days I get off at 2 o'clock. Some days I get off at 6 o'clock. Some days I get off not until the next day. And so what really helps me is being organized and with the time that I do have, being intentional with it. And so if I get off in the evening, and I do have some time, I try to think of ways to maximize the time that I have with my kids. To not just, if I'm tired, what are some ways that I can interact with them or be impactful, make them feel heard with the little time that I do have. And so I think prioritizing my family, staying organized is what helps keep a lot of the balance there.
Do you have like a list of things like, or if I get home at night, I got a couple of things that I can do, or do you have kind of like a plan, or is it something that you're thinking of as it kind of like on the fly?
Yeah, so I have my wife and I both use a Google Calendar, and so we can kind of put things on the calendar so that I know her schedule, she knows my schedule, and that way we don't get things, too mixed up, and we can kind of figure out what things, how I can best help her and how she can best help me. And using the calendar, we kind of know how the week is going to look going forward.
Yeah, see, I was just talking to somebody about that, and that actually I did a live on that on Friday on the importance of having that calendar because for me it made a world of difference, because I could just set things up and give 100% attention to each individual thing because I know I had time accounted for. And so it wasn't like while I'm with my kids, I'm also trying to do this work thing, or while I'm at work, I'm thinking about this home thing that I need to do. I could be locked in and be more productive at work because I know that I had time where I was going to spend with my children and vice versa, and I think without it, like every once in a while, we'll have a week where we don't sit down and go over our calendar and it's like chaos. It's like, it's a, it's a madhouse and everybody's scrambling, trying to figure out what we got going on that day. And it is literally a game changer for us. So, so you have a 8-year-old. So 8 years ago, you find out you're gonna become a father. Well, 9 years ago, technically. What was that experience like?
Man, I have always wanted to be a father. Whenever I met my wife, we were first of all married for 5 years before we even had kids, and so we already had names picked out. Like we already knew, how we want our family to look, and so whenever we finally, made the decision to try to get pregnant, and we got pregnant, like it was just, I knew that being a father would be rewarding, but it's not until you actually, you know, have your baby in your hands that it really impacts you and changes you for the better. And you kind of, start to, you know, you learn what real love is whenever you see a baby, whenever you see an innocent life that you brought into this world. And so when I had my daughter, Denise, 8 years ago, um, I think that it made me a better person. It made me more caring. It made me really have a greater appreciation of life and all that my parents went through raising me and helping me to become who I am.
Yeah, for sure. I feel the same way. Like I always say, I wasn't a bad dude before my kids, but I feel like I'm so much better because of them. Like they forced me to change in ways that I hadn't even thought about prior to having them. And then all of a sudden, it's like you aspire to be so much more than what you are or what you've been. So you say you always want to be a father. What is like your whole life? You've been like, man, I can't wait to be a dad.
So my name, I have a suffix at the end of my name. I'm Robert Singleton the second. And so, like all through school, kids were like, "Oh, so when are you gonna have the third? When are you gonna have the third?" And so, I really, kind of always thought about, having a son one day. And to be honest, to be completely honest, when I had a daughter, I was just a little bit disappointed that I didn't have a son. But after I had her, like I can't imagine not having my daughter. I think that girls are such a huge blessing, and I feel like daughters really take care of us as men. Whenever I have male patients in the hospital who come in for surgery, it's always the daughters who are the ones who know the medications and who are involved and who take care of their dads, either the wife or the daughter, or sometimes both of them will come in. And so I think, there's a really special bond between dads and daughters.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, I'm the second too, so I used to get the question all the time, like, you're gonna have the third, and like when I had daughters, like even now, people still ask me, well, when you going for that? When you going for that boy? And I'm like, yeah, no, life is complete, man. We got exactly what we need. It's 2-on-2. We can play a good solid half court. We can play man. We can play zone. Like,
Yeah, yeah, man. I think that girls are a blessing, and I think that especially for Black girls. Being able to have another, girl who looks like you, who kind of, who has your same hair, who has your same skin color, who goes through the same experiences as you do is such a powerful thing. When I was in my residency program, I worked on labor and delivery, and we did tons and tons of C-sections. And there was one lady, I looked through her chart, and this was her eighth baby. And I went to go meet her and her family. And when I walked in, there were seven girls. Like they were, there was a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this was the eighth child, and it was a boy. And so she had the C-section, and then she had her tubes tied because that was it. And I thought that was, beautiful. That was beautiful seeing all their kids. But I think a lot of times we get focused on the gender and like our legacy as men. But like you said, I think that God, he knows what he's doing whenever he gives us girls. And they really are a very huge blessing to us. And also, there's a really special thing with with the sister bond as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I can't do seven. I can't do seven trying to get a boy. Like that's crazy. Yo, we lost. That's it. I'm taking that L. Kids are like you said, they're fulfilling, but it takes a lot to raise kids, and I can't imagine having a whole. They got a whole roster. I had to ask you. We talk about fatherhood, and we talk about the fatherhood journey, and typically when we do, we're talking about like when it starts with us and how we are with our children. But our fatherhood journey really starts with our relationship to our father. So what is your relationship with your dad?
Yeah, so my parents divorced when I was 5 years old, and my dad lives in Las Vegas. We saw him every summer growing up, and today we still are very close. I try to call him at least once a week now, but growing up, my dad was always very supportive. He always told me, reach for the stars. There was, I think, one like pivotal moment in my life was whenever I was in fourth grade and I had this essay contest at school about staying off drugs and why that's important. And I won the essay contest, and my dad just, whenever he saw that I won the contest, he told me that I was going to, be successful, and he made me feel like I was intelligent. And that affirmation, I think, is what really made me want to go further and to go harder in math and science and, do well in school. So his affirmations really propelled me forward. And so that's kind of the dynamic that I've had with my dad, even though my parents are divorced, even though they do live, they were separated by distance as well. He always supported me.
Yeah, that's dope. I think a lot of times we don't think about like the little things like that. And maybe I mean at that time it wasn't a little thing. I don't want to minimize it, but just like being able to support, like, man, you did really well. I'm so proud of you. How that sparks something in our kids that we are not even thinking about. You know what I mean? Like he was just proud of you in that moment. He wasn't thinking if I say that he did really good here, he's gonna be a doctor later. You know what I mean? It was just I love my son and I'm proud of him. Great job, son. And then you know what I mean? And that kind of continued to push you forward, which is super awesome. So I love some of the stuff that I see. Well, not some. I love all of the stuff that I see from you on social media. But there's one thing in particular that I've seen more recently, and that's you've been kind of given like a scripture each day. Um, and it's I mean like every time I see it, I'm like, dang, that's it. Huh? I don't know how he is like, you know what I mean? That God is speaking through this brother for sure. Because I'll watch it and I'm like, that's exactly what I needed today. How are you going about choosing those? Is it just, you wake up and you kind of hit with it or how's that going?
Yeah, so my wife and I, we just joined. Well, first of all, we did not go to church for I think 2 years since the pandemic started. We did virtual church. My wife was a little bit more consistent than that with that than I was, but we didn't go to church for 2 years. Before that, I was pretty faithful about going every Sunday, whether I was sick or whatever. But we stopped going to church and we just started going back Easter of last year. And since then, we both have tried to um, go deeper with our faith, not just for our sake, but for the sake of our children and passing that down to them. And my wife and I have really deep conversations about God's word and also how we should be applying God's word to our lives. And so um, I I just most of my Instagram posts were kind of about family or my job, but I just started to say, I think that um, this is also a part of me too, my spiritual side, and I kind of
Mhm.
wanted to share what I was going through spiritually through my Instagram posts, and so whenever I have these conversations with my wife, I try to incorporate those things and what I read in the Bible, things that I get from church, things that I get from listening to gospel music, and I try to put it into a 20-second Instagram reel to kind of share with people something that's shareable that somebody can kind of hold on to or like send to their aunt or their uncle or something. And so doing that has been pretty rewarding, and I've been really blessed by the feedback that I've gotten from people who find it helpful.
Yeah, man. I definitely do, and I try to make sure that when I see them, I share them because I feel like the message resonates with me for sure, and I know there's somebody else out there that's going to resonate with, and I definitely want to pass on the message. So I keep doing it. I mean, and I like I said, I love it. It's been really powerful for me. So thank you. And there's something else that you do too, and there's been these push-up challenges, man, and you've been challenging some heavy hitters, though. Like what what is that a means to challenge yourself to do more, or are you just trying to what's the deal?
Yeah, man. So I have been doing, a push-up challenge for now 27 weeks, and the purpose behind it is, so I'm an anesthesia doctor, and I see patients before surgery, and I always ask about their exercise tolerance. How physically active are they? And it's always disappointing whenever I have patients who are not physically active. I ask, can you climb a flight of stairs? And they say, why would I climb stairs? And there's people who are just kind of content with being sedentary, and they don't realize that, if you're healthier, you can sometimes, not every time, but sometimes you can prevent different types of cancers from forming. You can prevent high blood pressure, diabetes, fibromyalgia, so many different health conditions by eating well, by getting sleep, by exercising, by having healthy lifestyle habits. And so that's why I kind of did this push-up challenge to show people that exercise makes you healthy. If you don't want to have to, we all have to, die, of course, eventually. But those latter years of my life, I want to be healthy. I want to be able to walk and to enjoy my grandkids and my retirement. And the way to do that is by having a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I like to say that as much as I enjoy fatherhood and I love fatherhood, and if I love it the way I say I do, I want to be a father for as long as possible. And the only way for me to be a father for as long as possible is to be as physically fit as I can be, to eat healthy, to exercise, to take care of my body, um, so that I get to that next level where I get to be grandfather, and I really want to be like the old wise great grandfather. You know what I mean? Like I when I was a kid, me and my grandfather had a really strong relationship. My daughters and their grandfathers have a really strong relationship. I want to, I want to kind of have that with their kids. And then like even further, right? Like I want to try to see how long I can be around, you know what I mean? And the only way to do that is to be healthy, right? Because accidents are going to happen, things are going to happen, and we don't know, tomorrow wasn't promised, but I want to live today like I know tomorrow is coming and there's another tomorrow after that. So, so I have to ask you, as in your professional opinion, exercise wise, um, or health wise, what are some of the things? I mean, I guess we can Google this, but most guys aren't going to. What should we be doing as fathers, as men, to make sure that we are staying healthy, staying on top of our fitness, or doing things to avoid having to come see you?
Yeah, I think that it's important. All of us know the basics, eat healthy, exercise. But one thing that I wish more people were open to and would do is to, get help if you need it. You know, I have a personal trainer. It's not that I don't know how to exercise, but having somebody who offers accountability, who can help me to have good form and prevent injuries, who can help me stay healthy, that is important. And I feel like no matter what your budget is or, how much you want to invest, you should try to get help. We as men can't be afraid to get help. And that can be in the form of an online personal trainer, an in-person, personal trainer, or even, there's different apps out there. I've done Weight Watchers before, but getting help if you need it, I think is a good place to start.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like that old, we don't want to stop for directions. We're gonna figure it out on our own. And we see it as a weakness, right? That we have to get help from somebody, or we don't put enough value on it that we don't want to pay somebody to help us, right? Like I'll be all right, kind of thing. Or your dudes will be like, well, my grandfather, he ate red meat and he drank a bottle of liquor and smoked 7 cigarettes and he lived to be 100. Like that's not you. And just in case you aren't as lucky as grandpa, to get some help, figure out what it is that you need to do. And then you mentioned something too in there, along with the accountability, which I think is huge. The injury prevention part of it is also a huge thing because you can Google workouts, you can go on Instagram and follow influencers who are doing workouts, but if you don't have a set of eyes on you watching you do some of these exercises, especially as we get older, you're setting yourself up for injury for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen, and I think if you exercise, sometimes, the more you exercise, the higher the chances are of you getting injured. So sometimes it's going to happen, but you can reduce the chances of that happening with proper form, with having somebody help you with your form. Like you said, a lot of times we don't even realize what our form is, even if you're in front of a mirror. You can't always judge your form as well as somebody else who's observing you. A couple years ago, I did this squatting challenge on Instagram, and I had my phone to record my squats, and I had no I in my head I was going down pretty deep, but when I looked on the phone, I'm like, wow, I'm really not. I really don't have the form that I thought I had doing these squats. And so whenever I'm with my trainer, he's able to help me get good form to try to prevent so that I can prevent injury, and also to maximize my time in the gym.
Yeah, I think that's another one of those things too, is that time is the issue, right? Just like we talked about before, with time being an issue with that work-life balance, finding the time to exercise or making the time to exercise is always the excuses. I don't have time. First you're telling me I need to spend time with my kids and my family. Now you're telling me I need to go exercise. Like I don't have that time. And that's because kind of for the same reason. It's like a lot of times if you don't have a schedule or you don't have an actual workout plan, then it's just all busy work and you're just doing random stuff. So of course you don't have time because the time isn't allocated specifically for that.
Yeah, and my response to that is always, what are your priorities? Because there's plenty of people who are super busy. Even look at the president of the U.S. Whenever Barack Obama was in office, how did he have time to be healthy, to play basketball? We make excuses for time, but it's really about your priorities. And whenever you prioritize your health, you make time, and it's better to make time on the front end while you're healthy than on the back end. Whenever now you have to make time for doctor appointments and having to have surgery and repair because you spent a lot of years neglecting your health.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So kind of staying on the time aspect of it, and like we talked about your schedule and how that kind of works, and making sure that you're intentional with the time that you get to spend with your kids. I've been talking to guys a little bit more about this recently about like your relationship to your wife. When you're busy the way you are, and you're making sure that you're showing up as a great father, how are you still also finding time to spend with your wife?
Yeah, man. So that's one thing that we are working on doing better on. Our main issue right now is finding childcare for us to do like evening dates. Uh, my wife's mom now works nights, and we don't really feel comfortable with a lot of babysitters. We don't have a lot of family here, so the way that we have worked around that is we do a lot of during the day, afternoon dates, lunch dates. We try to make time for each other during the day. And then also at night, after the kids are asleep, we maximize that time together. We make sure that we have, really caught up with each other. How are we feeling about our jobs? How can we support each other? And so we try to make time during the evening time as well to spend quality time together. So during the day we do dates, and then at night spend that time catching up.
Yeah, I think that's really important because it isn't always going to look like the traditional thing, right? Like you go out on these evening dates to dinner and the movies. Sometimes it's lunch and just conversation. But I think when you find a way to nurture that relationship, any way that you can, right? Because I told my girls this the other day is we were husband and wife before we were mommy and daddy. We were talking about like Valentine's Day, and my youngest was like, "Well, if you guys go out to dinner, then I want to come too." And I'm like, "Nah, not really. Like, that's me and mommy time, and we'll take you to dinner some other time. But we have to have husband and wife time so that we continue to be great mom and dad, or else, we start arguing or we have disagreements, and we don't get to give and pour into you the way that we need to because our cups aren't being, refilled." Yeah, so that's cool, man. Um, are you finding now that because you guys just got out to Chicago, right?
Yeah, so we've been here for a little bit over a year now. We moved here Thanksgiving 2022, and so it's been a little bit over a year. And this is the best. That was one of the best decisions that we made moving here, being closer to family, being in a bigger city. And so Chicago's been treating us very well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you kind of finding your stride there now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My wife works in downtown Chicago, and I work kind of south of Chicago. So she kind of goes north, and I go south for work. And I actually just started a new job this past November, and that's working out super well. The kids are enjoying their school, and what's nice is being close to so many different, good restaurants and great places. There's so many activities for our kids to do. I have my son in basketball, or he was in there in a few months ago. It ended, but then they both are in swim class, which wasn't available year round in our last city. So definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So basketball and swim, are they involved in anything else extracurricular?
So I want to definitely get them into more things. The issue is, like you said, you know, back to the priorities thing. Right now, they're in swim, which is once a week, and then they're also in their youth ministry at church once a week. And then, a lot of evenings, both my wife and I are it's kind of hard to kind of juggle and manage everything. So right now, that's all that we can accommodate.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I think sometimes we try to get them involved in too much, and it's that kind of like you got a finger in everything and a hold on nothing. Kind of give them some time to focus on one or two things, and then outside of that, they just they get to spend time building relationships with each other and with you guys, which is ultimately going to be key in the long run.
Yeah, I definitely hope so.
So I got a question for you that I kind of ask everybody, and I'm interested to hear what your answer is. Obviously a father, and this is a fatherhood podcast, but what does fatherhood mean to you?
What is fatherhood? To me, fatherhood is being present and passing down your ideas and your values. And that can be your biological kids, or it can be kids that you've adopted, you know, kids that are not your own, but just being present and passing down your goals and values.
Yeah, yeah, that's the real legacy piece, right? It's those kind of more intangible things that they can take and build upon. It's like a solid foundation. Okay, if you had any advice for fathers, if you wanted to like one message that you wanted dads to know, that you like if right now you posted that every dad in the world would see, what would that message be?
So, kind of similar to my advice with fitness is, get help. One thing that I like about the community of dads on Instagram is that we kind of have each other to kind of model fatherhood, and to kind of, see what being a dad looks like. What does a black dad look like? What does affection look like for our kids? Some of us didn't have dads who, um, said "I love you," or gave hugs. How present should we be? How hands-on should we be? So I think finding community, finding help, finding people who you can get advice from. I was able to call somebody last week for advice with my son, and that was very valuable. So I think going out and getting help, I don't think that it's enough to just kind of rely on what we already know, because sometimes the way that our dads operated and generations past may not work today, or um, it may not work for our kids. And so I think that we have to always reevaluate, try to get better if we want our kids to be better.
I agree, man. I think so many times we question ourselves whether we're enough, and then we don't go get help. You know, we're like, I will just figure it out, or they'll be okay. But I enjoy that part of the Instagram dad community as well, is because the further I get into it, the more I'm like, oh man, I could reach out to this guy, or somebody will post something, like you'll post something, and I'm like, oh man, that's a great idea. Let me try that. Or there's kind of, or somebody will message me, and I'm like, oh, let me help. I really think that community is key. The whole lone wolf idea is it's not bad, but it's not the only way to do it. It definitely work better in a pack. Two heads are better than one. And if you can get a community of guys with kids older than you and kids younger than you, um, you can probably do a good job of raising your kids. You're somewhere in the middle, you know.
Yeah, I agree. And also I want to add, that, there's no such thing as a perfect dad. I think that fatherhood looks different for all of us. Not everybody is going to be, as fit as you are. Not everybody's going to be as career oriented as I am, but we all have our different talents, our different interests, our different strengths. And so fatherhood's going to look different for all of us. And we shouldn't have a pressure to fit a certain mold, but just to be present, to be our best, and be the best dad for our kids, however that looks.
Yeah, that's key. That is really important. I'm glad you said that because I think like with anything else with the social media, you get into that kind of comparing situation where like so and so did this and he's a great dad, so I got to do this. But it may not work for your kids and it may not work for your family or your situation. And so you're right, just being the best version of you, the best dad that you can be is the key. Okay, kind of along those same lines. If you had to put together a reel, 20 seconds, and you wanted that message to go out to your kids, what would that message be?
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, no, I say so kind of along the same lines. If you were able to kind of get a message out, and that message was going to go directly to your kids, what would you want them to hear?
Yeah, I would want them to know that my love for them, my support for them is unconditional. I never want for them to feel like if they mess up or if they make a mistake that or if they make a decision that I don't agree with, that I don't love and support them. And so I want them to know that there's nothing they can do to make me, not love and support them. It's the kind of love that I think all parents should have, should be unconditional.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you really hit the nail on the head there, man, because there are going to be, I think we all have expectations. As much as we try not to, we at least have some thought for how our kids are going to be based on what we've done, based on what we're trying to accomplish with them, what we're trying to teach them. But the reality is that they're going to choose their own path with our guidance, hopefully, with our lessons, hopefully, but they're going to choose their own path. They're going to try to do some of the things that we tell them to do, and they may mess them up, right? Because just like us, they're not perfect. And I think it's our job as fathers, as leaders, when they do make those mistakes, to provide support. I mean, we may not have the answer, and sometimes we do, and maybe we can give them the answer and we can support them in that way. But sometimes it's just like, hey, it just messed up. It was just wrong. Didn't work out, but that's life. And how can I support you? Like, what do I need to do to help you get back on track? And I think that's enough. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as fathers, and in turn on our children, because we want them to be better than us. And it's that whole idea of perfection that is really unrealistic. So yeah, that's great, man. I'm sure hearing that from you and seeing it from you and feeling it from you is going to help them. Just like your dad being proud of you, with the essay, kind of propel them into the next level of their life without you having to try to force it. So so I was gonna ask you, As we're kind of moving into the next phase of the year, we're kind of out of well, not out of the winter. It's the middle of the country is frozen right now. But as we start to kind of get into the spring and the weather gets better and people aren't as sick and all that, um, is there anything that dads should be doing going forward health wise to like keep themselves other than like we talked about fitness, we know that we should be eating better. Is there anything else that we need to know? Anything as we're like aging? I'm about to be 40. Like, what do I need to do to make sure that like I said, I get to be great granddad?
Yeah, man. I think one of the most important things is to get your annual visit, establish, a primary care physician. Um, a lot of times throughout the year, there's different awareness months, like colon cancer awareness, prostate cancer awareness, and people always ask, when should I get this screening? When should I get this test? And the best first step to do is to establish your primary care physician because they can guide you and they can look at your family history, your risk factors, and determine what screenings are necessary during that time. Um, so that would be the first thing. And then the second thing, I think, is to look at your lifestyle. What are you doing to your body? Is it making you healthier or less healthy? Because, I'm up there as well. I'm 38 years old. As we move into our 37, as we move into our 40s, these are the years that are really going to determine how healthy we're going to be in our 50s and 60s. And so if we're not eating right, if we're not exercising, if we're not living a healthy lifestyle, it's going to catch up with us in our 50s and 60s. And so we have to look at what are we eating and how are we moving our bodies.
Yeah, well, you hear that, guys. So let's make sure we get a yearly because I struggle with that. I'm like, yo, I'm healthy. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm good. But my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer a couple years ago, and so I'm like, man, now I got to worry about that. And he had a heart condition when I was in high school. He had to have a stent put in, and so I'm like, dang, man, I got to make sure I really take care of myself, and like, you got to get into the doctor whether I want to or not, whether I feel good or not. Like, I've got to, make sure that I get my visits in and make sure that everything is on track. And like you said, get those screenings because I don't want to find out I have something after I already have it. Like if I can do something preventative or before it to kind of take a better approach to it, then I definitely want to do that. And I think again, a lot of guys just don't go to the doctor. Yeah, so doctor's orders, man. You guys got to get in and get your physicals, get in and get your annual checkup. Um, Before we go, Doc, did you have anything else that you wanted to share with the fellas?
Yeah, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for having me on this podcast. Again, I admire what you're doing. And I just want to say, to the guys, that we have to kind of be there for each other. The community of fatherhood is really powerful. We can learn from each other, we can help each other grow. And I think that we should try to encourage other guys who may not their way. Not shame them, make them feel bad, but I think one of the best ways that we can help new dads and dads who could do better is just by being the change that we want to see, by exemplifying, by being an example. And I think by us being good dads, it shows other guys how to be good dads, and we can all help each other through community.
Yeah, I agree. If the guys want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Robert Second 53, and I'm there pretty much every day. I post about my family, my job. I try to post inspiration that I find helpful. So that's where I am mostly on my Instagram page, also TikTok and YouTube with the same handle.
Awesome. And we'll have all that in the guest profile for you guys. If you don't remember it, you can click guest profile and you'll see all that information there. Doc, thank you, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know, like I say, your schedule's super busy, but taking the time out to get this done, man, I really appreciate it for sure. Go ahead and get some rest, man. I know you probably got another 24 or something crazy coming up. All right.